First of all, how you doing?
I'm well, thanks. Really good to see you, man.
Yeah, good. And I was just going to start by saying how I found Breaking Jar, how I came across yourself, and it was through the film Sparks May Fly. I think you left it open for interpretation, which I really enjoyed, and it was just something where I could see myself doing the same thing, where you had a message, probably to share, but it wasn't like straight, like in your face of like this is what I want to share. It was
Yeah.
kind of left to interpret, which I just really found great and enjoyable. So now you've done Darling. My question is, what were the key differences that you wanted to make from your previous film, and even going back to Sweet Sicily,
Yeah.
going into Darling?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the question, man, because yeah, you've seen some of my journey through those different projects, and Sparks May Fly. Yeah, because it kind of came in the middle of my journey because I'd done some films previously, like Sweet Sicily that you mentioned back in 2020, and Sweet Sicily was kind of my breakthrough project where I really saw what was possible with having a whole cast and a whole crew and different locations and props and costumes, and it was a period drama as well, set in the 20th century.
That sounds about right.
And so after Sweet Sicily, I set up the company Breaking Jar and I started trying to do it more professionally. And then I was sort of going through a hard time personally. I had a lot of stuff going on and different commitments that I was dealing with, but I was still intent on pursuing filmmaking. And so I had to find a way to do it that was achievable. And so the original premise for Sparks May Fly was, what if I play the main character? Because I've done a little bit of acting myself. And so then I don't need somebody else to be available for all the shoots because I'll be there anyway as the director. So as long as I'm there anyway, I may as well get in front of the camera too. And then in terms of the format, one of the biggest challenges I found on some projects is to get good audio. And so I thought, what if there just is no audio? It's just visuals. And so that led to the style being, instead of a traditional narrative drama like my other projects, it was more of almost like an extended music video where like the audience hears the songs and they see the visuals. And it's kind of a different type of experience, like you said. So yeah, for Sparks May Fly, the reason I did it that way was practical because I thought it would make it easier. But then the result was it ended up giving me space to kind of express myself creatively because a lot of the stuff I've been inspired by is like music videos, like compilation videos, like edits that people put on YouTube, just like fan media, like stuff that's not even like official filmmaking, just any kind of like audio visual art, like experimental films, art films, like all of that inspired me. And so with Sparks May Fly, I was able to do that. And it came from a place of limitation, but then I embraced it and had a lot of fun with it. So that's kind of how that came about. And then after doing that, I said, okay, you know what? I really do actually miss narrative drama and just like the traditional way of doing it, where you have a script and actors and characters, and you get to really go deep on like the character backstories and personalities and costume designs and the world building, and to actually get on set with some actors and do some traditional dialogue together. Just like, you know, when I was a kid being in school plays or whatever, being able to bring that sort of traditional acting and theater and cinema into just like a normal film, basically, rather than a more experimental one. So I think it was kind of a pendulum swing of like, after Sparks May Fly, I wanted to get back to what I had loved so much about Sweet Sicily. And so that led me to Darling, which is also a period drama, also kind of a bit historical. And the experience of making it was much more akin to what I used to do on projects like Sweet Sicily. So I guess I was trying some new things, but for the most part, I was kind of just like reverting back to stuff I'd enjoyed in the past that I hadn't done for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard that it took you 4.5 years. Was it between writing it or coming up with the idea to actually like producing it? And why did you choose now for this instead of maybe instead of doing it 2023 when you did Sparks May Fly? Why was it now?
That's a good question. I think it probably just wasn't ready yet because the biggest thing is just having a solid story, because if it's not, it's going to be bad. And like, I think there are some things I can push through. Like if if the cinematography is really high quality, then people will look at it for 5 seconds and be impressed because they'll be like, wow, that's so good. because it looks professional visually. But then if the story is boring or it kind of falls flat or like it doesn't really make sense emotionally, then it kind of leaves this taste in your mouth of like, I don't really know what I just watched. Like, I don't really know what that was. And so I wanted it to be concise and effective and to be like, I wanted to really make the point and like share the themes that I was trying to share in the most effective way. And so I think on Sparks May Fly, I could do that through music and through a more kind of abstract, creative, vibey sort of thing, where it's more about how the film feels. Whereas with Darling, it was relying on like the traditional filmmaking process actually working, of like every single line of dialogue is well written, every bit of performance from the actors is convincing and authentic and feels like you're watching real humans. I wanted the cinematography to feel like a documentary, so it's literally like you're watching real life just unfold. And also it's set in a specific time period, which means every single item that appears in front of the camera needs to be historically accurate or at least close to. So like every costume, every prop, every location, every vehicle that you see needs to fit within this 1995 setting. And so that's all extremely like complex to execute on. And so in theory, Sparks May Fly was way easier. So I did that one first. But I think to kind of bring it back to what I was saying before, it really was about the story. Like it just wasn't ready yet until 4.5 years, from the original idea. I finally had a full screenplay draft where I was like, this could actually be decent on it. Like this actually makes sense as a narrative. And all the characters were fleshed out enough to actually start doing something with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say like the cinematography, like the director and everything really came together really well. And how difficult was it, or how did you approach trying to because you wanted that documentary style? Did you try and seek out that in people, or did you just find basically who applied and said, this is what I want? Or did you kind of try and select someone that already had experience with that style, or what was the process there?
Yeah, I think ultimately I had to find the right person, and then I kind of trusted that we could build the style together. And I think when I'm finding the right person, it's like, do they care about the story? Are they genuinely interested in the subject matter? And also, do I get on well with them as a collaborator? Like in terms of their reliability, personality, their own like character traits, like do we gel well together? Yeah. And so I think I did go through a process with different people that applied, who I had conversations with, and we were just trying to see if it was the right fit. It's not that like any of them were better or worse or less qualified or more qualified or whatever. It really wasn't like a skill thing or anything like that. It was literally like, who do I get on the best with? And who is like this the right time in their specific career right now? Because like this is such a specific project. It's going to have specific requirements of like what they're going to have to turn up and do. And some people are almost overqualified, where like they're so advanced in their career, I don't want to put this on them because they've got too much else going on already. Whereas some people are like, they're just starting out, they don't really have enough experience yet to be able to carry something like this. So it's kind of a balance, and just finding someone who's in that sweet spot. And so the DOP, Andrea, I think he was the last person I spoke with because he'd been abroad, he'd been busy, I'd been busy, and we kept having to reschedule our call. But we both kept replying to each other. And I think that was what made the difference, because neither of us dropped out and just gave up and stopped responding. We both kept saying like, what about Thursday? What about Friday? What about Monday? And eventually we found a time to speak, and we just chatted for an hour immediately. And I was planning to talk to him for like 20 minutes, but we just couldn't stop because we just had so many ideas. And so to answer your question in terms of the style, I think I got on well with him personally, but he also understood the style. And he was asking me questions about how I wanted to do it, and he was making suggestions about how one might do it. And so I immediately saw like, oh, he knows what he means, and he knows what I mean, and we're seeing things in like an aligned way. Where I'm saying like, I want it to feel documentary style, so it's going to be, we're going to be moving freely. And then he said, okay, I have a gimbal, so maybe I could put it on the gimbal. And then we talked more about that. And then he was like, wait, if it's on the gimbal, it might be too smooth because it stabilizes the shot a lot. So sometimes it looks a bit kind of floaty, like you're in a video game render or something. So then he was like, maybe we take it off the gimbal. And I was like, I like that. Let's discuss that more. So it's like we could both see the vision, and we could both make it happen together, as well as the fact that like we had a natural rapport. So I say, no, I didn't go in with a requirement of like, I must find someone who can do this style. It was more like, I must find the right person, otherwise we're not going to be able to do anything. But then once I did find the right person, I could tell that like, oh yeah, this is going to work. Like he gets the style too. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying like, if you can find someone as passionate as you, that's where it works. And it's kind of like you can try and find the best person, but really ultimately it's like it's down to how much they want to do it, and that's what gets the best results, I think. So yeah, a lot goes, as you can hear, a lot went into the visuals and stuff, and I wanted to go on to Paxford because we're talking about like collaborating with people. But on Paxford, it was just you, wasn't it?
I work alone in order to keep other people safe.
How cool was it to start that character just by yourself? Now you're doing it with other people and you're collaborating, because we see Cyril again in Darling.
Yeah, that was awesome, to be honest, because this idea, so when I say it took 4.5 years, the original idea, I realized if I really go back, it was about 2 characters, and I had code names for them. They were called like Diplomacy and Reconnaissance or something like that, and that was Princess Naomi and Cyril Paxford. So it's basically like a woman who is a public figure, and so her life is so public that everyone knows who she is, everyone knows her name, and like she's very much in the public eye, so she never gets any privacy, but she also can't really build like real relationships with people because it's all very like superficial and, you know, politeness and social cues and stuff, but you know, it's all, her whole life is public. And then we have this other guy who's like, he's in the shadows doing reconnaissance, so he has to gather information, and he's doing it undercover, and he can't come out and tell anybody what he does for work. He can't take the credit when he, you know, goes on a successful mission or whatever. And I was learning a lot about people who work in like the kind of intelligence community and special forces and stuff, where basically if they're on the front page of the newspaper, something's gone wrong and they failed. We're not supposed to know they exist so that they can do their job properly. And I was just thinking, how lonely would that be, where you can never get the credit for any of the things you achieve? And so I thought those 2 characters could have an interesting friendship, because it would be very natural for them to meet at like an event or a gala or a political something. If he's working in security and she's, you know, public facing, and they could kind of develop like a weird friendship because she's so famous and he's so anonymous that they actually kind of have something in common, which is they're both lonely, you know, on opposite ends of the spectrum. So basically that was the original idea, was to have 2 characters. And then for Paxford, that was, again, it came from a practical place, like with Sparks May Fly, of I was at home. It was kind of coming out of COVID lockdowns and stuff as well. So it was really hard to travel. There were like health concerns and things like that. So I was quite limited in what I could do practically. And so I thought, what if I use this as a filmmaking challenge to prove a point? Because by that point I started teaching workshops and stuff. So I had principles of like how to make the best short film. So I thought, what if I applied those principles to a one-man project, just like I would on a bigger one? And so I did all the same stuff, except it was all just me. So I guess I didn't have to do any recruitment, but I had to do like story development, script, location, costumes, props, acting, editing, music. Like I did all of it myself, just to prove that in theory, all of the principles work, even if it's just you doing them all. I am very good at my job.
Is Paxford going to be a recurring character in future Breaking Jar projects? Is it in your mind to do another film with him, or is that it?
He's definitely going to be in more for sure. Yeah, because I've been thinking about him for a long time, and again, I've been thinking about Naomi for a long time as well. And now that we've had a chance to make a film about her, and then to have him come in as a supporting character, now we've met both of them. We've met both of their individual stories, and we've seen a bit of their dynamic together as well. Yeah. And so there's actually a whole universe in my head and in my secret notebooks about Cyril, Naomi, their friends and families and contacts and careers, and where it all goes from here. So 100%, I definitely want to make more. Yeah.
Is it a challenge though, when you're acting and directing at the same time, especially with other people where you've got Jean, I think I've pronounced right.
Yeah, Jean, that's right. Yeah.
And you've got obviously you're in the same scene, but is it a struggle to direct, or What's the challenge there?
That's a good point. Yeah, Jeanne and I rehearsed together for 6 months, which was a bit unnecessary perhaps, but I basically for this project, I knew we needed it to feel as authentic as possible. And these characters are so specific. So like Cyril Paxford is like this secret intelligence operative, and there's a whole lot of research that I've done for 4 years to develop that character. And the only reason I play him myself is because I feel I have enough in common with him that it's fairly effortless because he's not that different from me. So I don't have to think too hard about acting as him as long as I remember my lines. So that's a challenge too. But yeah, so I was able to play him fairly effortlessly because of all the preparation I'd done and his own similarity to me. Yeah. And so then for Naomi, yeah, I don't think I ever really needed to like start giving Jeanne directions on how to play Naomi whilst I was meant to be focused on playing Cyril because we'd done all the preparation. And so I'd had a chance to share everything with her that I wanted her to know. And she'd had a chance to ask me every question that she wanted feedback on. And so then she could ultimately decide how she was going to play it. And those decisions were made before the shoot. And so then on the day, it was more just me like checking that she was okay. Like, you know, just as a director, like checking if she needed anything practically. It wasn't me giving her last minute directions of like, I think you should portray this emotion or whatever, which usually a director would do. We'd kind of done that before so that once we got to the set, we could just do it and we could just be self-governing. So like she could just do her performance and I could just do mine. Yeah, but I think it was probably a lot easier for me than it was for the crew in a way because I'm writing it, directing it and acting in it, I kind of have full creative control of the whole thing. And everyone else has to kind of keep up. I think that's basically the dynamic. And so I try and brief them all as much as possible. But ultimately, like, I could make snap decisions about things because I had all the information because it was all inside my head. Yeah. And so
they have to kind of trust you, like, yeah, it's what he wants. Okay, we'll move on. Like, because you did it all in one day, didn't you? Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that, because you prepared so well, it's already sort of in their heads, know what they're doing. And going back to PAX for a little bit, you did that behind the scenes kind of, you know, inside look at your process from start to finish, which I found really helpful, actually. It's like going through the stages and obviously with just yourself. And you said that the editing part was probably the thing that you're looking forward to the most. How is that the easiest part for you, or is that because it's a challenge for me? Actually, I probably enjoy more shooting.
Yeah, that's interesting that I said that because I forgot that I said that. I think editing is for me, it's the most like task-based thing that I can just get my teeth into it, because the material is there, and I just have to do the best I can with what I've got. Yeah. And so I think the shooting process is probably the most intense because it's like so much like mental energy, emotional energy, creative energy, and physical energy because you're physically running around and carrying stuff and adjusting equipment and everything. So like I'm absolutely exhausted after a shoot. And then I come away with whatever files I got, you know, whatever footage I have on the hard drive. And then that's what I have to work with. And so then for editing, it's by comparison quite a peaceful experience because it's just me on my laptop with my headphones in, just fiddling around with clips. And like I've been editing since I was about 10 as a hobby, just making like silly like compilation videos and stuff. So I think I don't necessarily always feel like doing it, like it is a bit of a chore. But then once I sit down, I can do it for hours. Like it's one of those things where like I would skip a meal or like deprive my body of what it needs because I'm just engrossed in the task. Whereas with something like script writing or costume design or whatever, or admin, you know, anything like more production based, I might just get fed up and stop after a little while. Whereas with editing, I could probably just go in deep for a few hours and not mind because the task is kind of quite chill for me. Just probably because I've been doing it since I was a kid as well. Yeah.
So how long did it take exactly to edit?
Darling took, well, in theory, 6 months, but most of that was not actively doing it, but it was 6 months from the shoot to the finish.
The festivals that you want to enter, you probably have to kind of judge that time and kind of make sure that you've got the film ready for submission. How long
Sort
was
of, yeah.
that kind of, 6 months, would you say?
6 months is what I took. I gave myself 6 months because I felt that October would be a good time to have it done and to do a screening. Because like summer holidays are a bit dead because everyone goes abroad and stuff. So I find that like the university terms kind of guide quite a lot of what people are doing, especially younger people. And so in September, like everyone's coming back for uni, and then in October, it's like the new term's underway and people are ready for stuff. And so I thought having this film done in October and getting the cast and crew back together and doing a screening, that feels right. And we'd shot it in April because that was the sweet spot of like the weather and the sunlight and stuff that we needed was in April. So it ended up being 6 months. So having set myself a deadline of October, I said, okay, I now have 6 months to do it. So then I kind of slacked off a bit, but I did like the whole rough cut in the first 2 or 3 weeks because I was just really enjoying it. And I just obsessively went for it until it was done. And then probably did nothing for like 4 months and then came back into the rest. So it was like a 6 month window, but actual editing time, it was probably not that many hours, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find you need to kind of take a break from it and then go back into it, or?
Definitely. In some cases, a break of like several weeks, if I can afford that, or at least several days. Because when you're doing it every day or every hour, like you get stuck in kind of a groove with it. And then when you step away and forget about it and come back, you get a whole fresh perspective when you rewatch what you've just edited. So yeah, I think breaks help me a lot. Definitely.
I also noticed that on Sparks May Fly, you did the soundtrack. So that was on Apple and Spotify, and you do the music. So where does that come in? Do you start with that, or do you finish with it?
Weirdly, actually, I've been starting with it on the last few projects. I never used to really do anything musical, but I did when I was a kid. And then I think basically I used to sing a lot when I was a small child, which is so funny now because it seems like a lifetime ago, but I was in choirs and stuff. And then when my voice was breaking as a teenager, I didn't get into the choir auditions. And then I was so like insecure about how my voice sounded. I just thought that's it now. Like I don't sing anymore. And then when I was at university, I had some friends that were doing music and I kind of crept back into it by writing lyrics because that was a bit like poetry. And I've always been a writer anyway. So that felt natural. And so I was writing lyrics for other people to perform. And then eventually I started singing or rapping or doing spoken word or just like performing some of the stuff I'd written. Yeah. And then during lockdown in 2020, being bored and stuck at home, I went on GarageBand on my iPhone and just started fiddling around with stuff and figuring out how to produce. And then eventually bought a Mac so that I could do it on a bigger screen. So yes, so then I eventually started getting into just some like basic music production. And so that's something that's a hobby for me. And so whenever I feel like it, I'll just go and find some new like melodies and loops and beats and stuff and figure out new ways to put them together. And then when I end up with an instrumental that I like, then I kind of save it in my folder in case it's useful later. And so for Darling, I had the whole soundtrack done with a few extras that we didn't end up using. And so there was one that was like the big opener, and then there was one that was the end credits song, and then a few in between. And so when we did like the crowdfunding campaign and stuff, like months before we shot anything, I already had a whole song to use for the video. So that was quite important to me for like stylistic consistency, that like people could get used to hearing the same theme tune for this project. So yeah, it's in recent years, it's become a thing where I do the music first and then have it already done for the film.
I think
but that's quite unusual, I think.
I think I appreciate how unique it is because no one else is using that music. So filmmakers can kind of like get this copyright free music, but you've made your own. And I think that's why I appreciated Sparks May Fly. And it was just something different. It was unique. And it looked as if like you started with it because you kind of then shot with the music. I think that's great to have that style that in the music that we've come to expect as fans of Breaking Jar. So,
well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's because like there's a time lag on like how soon I can get a film made, and there's not much time lag at all on how soon I can get the music done. So like I've already made some music that you'll hopefully be hearing in November, December 2027 on my next big project, and the music's already done, man. And it's like almost 2 years ahead of time. But
good to be
but like, yeah, but like those songs are for that project, but that project's not going to be done until it's done. And so the songs aren't going to see the light of day until the time comes. So I think that's why I've got it done first, because like I get them done so much more quickly. It takes a lot longer to like write an entire script and execute on a whole film production. Yeah.
I should have started with having music because I didn't really, I thought that could come last. And then I was struggling to find sound and stuff. But yeah, I should have definitely I had like the visuals in place. I had the storyboard. I had everything like that you could see, but what you could hear wasn't there. So it kind of took a long time to find sound effects, music. That's how you sent me like some sound effect music websites I could use. But yeah, I mean, you making your own music, it's like unique to you. It's perfect for what you're going for. And yeah, that's definitely something where for the next project, it's like have the music first. And I actually wanted to say as well, someone come to me after the Cheerleader and said, "Can you direct my idea?" Which I just thought was great. And I just said to them, like, they're going to produce it, they're going to act in it, they've written the script. But I just said to them, just find like music that you want because it saves you at the end.
I like it. I
just wanted to end with a bit of advice that you said. I think it was the first course, the first workshop on the Get It Made program. And it was something that you said, don't be a shoulda, don't be a you shoulda.
Oh yeah, don't shit on each other.
Don't shit
on yourself.
That's it. So
yeah,
I just wanted to bring it up because obviously you taught that to people, and it's something that you can listen to and say, okay, I'll take that in mind, but it's something that you don't really understand unless you've gone through kind of like your films are your vision. You don't want anyone kind of saying you should do this and then become someone else's film. Yeah. I just wanted to ask where that phrase came from, because how did you kind of learn that? And the things that you teach on the Get It Made program, where do they come from? Like your own experiences, or is it some word of advice from someone else, or where does it originate?
Yeah. Oh, I love that, man. Yeah. The all the content in the Get It Made program came from my own experiences, and I just somehow was lucky enough to come up with words and phrases and formula that I could use to describe what I was trying to say. And that's the hardest thing, I think, is just to find accurate language to convey an idea. But yeah, so after I made Sweet Sicily back in 2020, and it was actually good, and people gave me really positive feedback on it, and I was like, oh wow, maybe I can actually be a serious filmmaker. I remember sitting down in a courtyard at the university with my little notebook and writing down these 4 words: synthesize, capitalize, and I don't think I figured out the next 2 yet, but those became the first 2 steps of my 5-step formula that you've learned in the program.
Yeah.
And so it was literally just, I reflected on what I'd done, and I was like, okay, so how come my previous projects were crap and this one's actually decent? And I just tried to figure out, what did I do that worked? And then I tried to find accurate language for that. So yeah, all the formulas and stuff that I teach, I'm really reluctant to go and like even read a single textbook or look anything up online, because I don't want to get distracted by what other people are teaching. I want to just go inwards and be like, no, let's be honest. What did I actually do? And then try and share that. So that's where all the content comes from. But in terms of that specific phrase, during the program, I think I said that when I was encouraging people to share takeaways. And because it was a group session, I was worried that they might start jumping on each other's and that you guys might start giving each other helpful suggestions, because it's so easy to do that. And sometimes somebody's like just preparing their film about, you know, this teenage character or whatever, and then someone's like, oh, you should make them a child. Yeah, they should be like 6 years old. And you're like, oh, like I've just figured out this idea.
Yeah, because you think it's
old character.
You think you're being helpful, don't you? But actually,
exactly,
you're taking away from. You want to sort of help them, but you don't want to change what they want to do. And I think it's just best to just be encouraging and kind of So I just found it sort of really something where you don't appreciate it as much unless you go through it.
Well, I just want to finish on that as well, though. Credit where it's due. I didn't come up with the phrase "don't shit on each other."
Okay.
So all the content in the program is me, but the stuff of like how I run the program, I've actually learned a lot from nothing to do with filmmaking. It's basically like the personal development space and like the entrepreneurship space. And so in that space, I've had the benefit of being exposed to a lot of like coaching and like training and self-education and those sorts of programs. And a lot of the people that run those programs have to find ways to facilitate groups and have them not turn into complete chaos. Because again, when you've got like, 100 people on a Zoom breakout room or something, they could all start, doing really annoying things to each other. And then you look bad as the entrepreneur or the business owner or the one that organized that forum. And so I've just learned by watching how those people do things. And somewhere in there, I actually can't remember who it was, which was annoying, but I heard somebody say, don't should on yourself or stop shooting on yourself. And it's a funny pun because it sounds like a different word when you say it quickly, like don't should on yourself. It might have even been like Tony Robbins actually, but it's basically like when you put these obligations on yourself where you're like, I ought to, I should, I'm supposed to. And then you start to feel this burden of guilt that like you're doing it wrong because there's this imaginary standard of what you're supposed to be doing. And then you end up not even doing anything because you're just so paranoid about like doing it wrong. And so the idea is that we don't want that crap, for want of a better word, all over ourselves. And we don't want to be putting that on each other. So stop using the language of obligation of yourself, of like, I'm supposed to be doing this. And also stop using it on other people, where you like jump on them with all your helpful suggestions of saying, you should do this, you should do this. Just take all that off yourself and each other and just go inward and focus on like, what do I actually want to create? What am I trying to build? And what's the best way for me to do that? So yeah, it's my own experience of filmmaking, but I've got an enormous amount that I owe to like the personal development world because that's what's helped me to actually do any of these things in a bigger way. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a bit about your experience with making the Cheerleader, because I had the privilege of working with you in the Get It Made program and hearing about that, how that idea came from a place of personal experience for you and how you were able to develop that into a whole story. And so first of all, I wanted to ask, so when you first applied for the Get It Made program, Ethan, I remember you filled in our form and there was a question in there about what you were hoping to do. And you said that you felt it was important for a director to be able to develop their own style and that you'd seen other film directors have their own unique style. Yeah. And so when I saw the Cheerleader, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. He's actually done it because it has a very distinct style. It's not just like a generic drama. And so where did that come from for you? And did you have reference points of like other films or media that you were drawing on? Or where did you get the idea for all those choices, like visually, the way the colors looked, the way that you added like little effects on screen and titles, and where did that all come from? Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to make that middle part where all the characters are together, that they're stuck in a place. That was originally the main sort of film, but it didn't go too well. We didn't have much time to do it. Inexperience on my part as well. And I thought there's flags, like red, white and blue flags out on the town. And I just thought I could color code each character to kind of save it a bit. And then I had the judges and thought there's 3 judges. I'm going to color their bow ties. Like I'm just going to have the colors of the competition match each character. And it was just something where I wanted it to be different, and it kind of worked. I had ideas to put like video game stuff, so it probably comes from that. It probably comes from video games where you have like the health bar. I had ideas to put it over the top. It's something that I've never seen before. I mentioned it to someone, the cinematographer, and they said it's like similar to Scott Pilgrim, and like that's all. They have like text over the top. And Edgar Wright is a massive inspiration, and that's the main reference point, I would say, his films. And Hot Fuzz is one of my favorite films, and I think that's because it like takes place in like a town, like with a church and everything. It's kind of similar to what we have.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I kind of like it here.
And then the main thing with the plot was Little Miss Sunshine. I think I've mentioned that to you. It was just something where I saw it. I have no interest in beauty pageants or anything, but the characters you just like identify with each one. And we have like a group of 5 people that are all different, and each one's kind of having something to overcome.
So I said some things that I shouldn't have said, and I did some things that I shouldn't have done, and subsequently I was fired from my job and forced to move out of my apartment and move into a motel.
That all makes so much sense, and I love the personal reference points of where it came from for you. And I just wanted to say for myself, like, that's a huge thing I love, and I've got really into it recently, of color coding characters. And in Darling and in Paxford, there's been a lot of that. And if you ever feel like rewatching Darling or Paxford, you'll see, especially in Darling, look out for the colors, because that's exactly what I was hoping to do as well, with giving them each a distinct look. And there's also Brad, who plays the bodyguard, had, I think his only option for a suit was a grey suit, and he thought that was quite good anyway, because it's like a morally grey character. And I said, okay, Brad, yeah, I like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then, as it happens, my character, Cyril, is also wearing some grey clothing, but then he takes that off, and then we reveal what he's wearing underneath, which is his true colors, as it were. So the symbolism of colors is kind of used in the clothing in Darling as well. So I got really excited when you started talking about that, because it came from an organic place of you seeing those colors around your town.
Yeah,
and then
it come from the town.
It. Yeah.
If I had it from the start, it would have been them wearing the colors. But yeah, I mean, it came from kind of in the making of the film, and then obviously for the next project, that'll be from the start. But I really like hearing that's went into your film as well, because there's something that I appreciate, just these little details. I heard that something about Peter Pan as well, that you like to put like references in there. So there's a lot of that in my film as well. There's just random stuff that probably people don't pick up on, but it's just in there, isn't it? To kind of it's one of those. That's one of the questions I have for you as well. Is like, is there any targets that you had? Because there was targets for me of like putting in these Cheerleader references to previous films, or there's just certain aims that I had, which I found it enjoyable to do that, as well as kind of make the film on a whole. These little targets that, like putting Peter Pan in the.
Yeah. Well, you did an amazing job of that. There was so much depth to it, with all the different references and all the different people you had involved as well. And I think that was a big thing for me too, the Peter Pan references were a big one. When I was thinking about these two characters, like I said earlier, they literally just had roles. They didn't have names or anything. They just had like personality traits and career paths. And then when I was starting to think of a name, Cyril Paxford was the first name I had. And then I needed a name for his friend, his counterpart. And so I wanted a name that sounded good together, like Bonnie and Clyde, or like there's a film called Queen and Slim that came out a few years ago. And I like these sort of like duo names. And so I was like Paxford and something, Paxford, and I felt that a D name would be good. And I eventually settled on Paxford and Darling, because Darling is a surname. Like I think there was a politician called Alistair Darling or something. So I thought that's quite nice as a name. And then I realized, oh my gosh, Wendy Darling. Like, that's the most famous example, is the characters in Peter Pan have that surname. And then it evolved from there, where I decided I didn't want that to be her surname. I just wanted it to be kind of an Easter egg, like you were saying, like a reference. And so Princess Naomi doesn't have a surname yet. She just has a first name, Naomi. So it's Paxford and Naomi, or Cyril and Naomi, I guess, are their first names. She doesn't have a surname yet, but they have code names. And so then, because it's this kind of spy world, they need code names. And that's like a fun trope, obviously, of the genre, but it's also in real life, like if you're doing covert surveillance and all of this stuff, it's high stakes and you need code names for people. You can't use their real names. And so it's like, well, realistically, where would a bunch of people in Britain in 1995 in this sort of social group come up with a bunch of names? And I thought like a children's fairy tale book is kind of as good a reference point as any other. And so in this film, we've got Princess Naomi's code name is Darling, because she has some similarities to Wendy. And then once we had that, I then had an absolute field day with like the bow in her hair, which looks a bit like the classic Wendy and Peter Pan. Yeah. And also even stuff like Cyril talks about escaping through a window. And there's this whole trope of how Peter Pan comes to the nursery they fly in and out of the window. And in Peter Pan, Wendy is stuck in her kind of everyday, ordinary life with her family in the playroom. And then he helps her escape to this life of adventure in Neverland. And so in our film, Princess Naomi is this princess, and she's not trapped in a playroom, but she's trapped in this world of like all these social norms and expectations and paparazzi and all this stuff she has to navigate in her life. And then this mysterious guy, Cyril, comes in and he kind of offers her a way out because his life is all, mysterious and exciting. And so in a way, he represents like a way out of like, if she could ever escape with him, could her life be different? And so then she's like, how are we going to escape? And he says, I'm thinking we could climb out a window. So these are all just little Peter Pan references. And then his code name, I'll just spoil it for the audience because I want to. At the end of the film, she's been trying to find out his code name and he wouldn't tell her. And that's a trust thing of like, even though they're close, he can't tell her certain things because it'll put her in danger and it'll break protocol and stuff. But at the end of the film, she finds out his code name. And so that's sort of like a next level in their relationship. And like maybe she can trust him now that she's been able to get a bit closer. And his code name is Lost Boy. And obviously that's a Peter Pan reference because of the Lost Boys. Yeah. But it's also a much deeper thing about him and his life and him as a person. And it makes the audience hopefully start to realize maybe he's not such a perfect guy. Maybe he has some of his own issues. Yeah. And then if you go and watch the Paxford short film, you'll learn that like he's lonely and isolated and all that. So the idea of Lost Boy, it was a perfect name for him as well. So it just gets deeper and deeper. And then my brain was just like firing on all cylinders of like, this works for the story. And it's cool because it's a Peter Pan references. And so then you just tie it like more and more and more closely together and it becomes more and more like rich and satisfying as a storyteller. Yeah.
Is there a point where you try and explain that you say about in Naomi's outfit, you try and explain that to maybe someone and they're just like, what are you talking about? You've gone too far. Like,
oh yeah. The average person doesn't understand why that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, like
it was just something like
things. Yeah.
Hey Mickey was just a line that I wanted to work into the film, and I had a key like land on the thing, and I just put like one of the characters was originally going to be called Mick, and I just wrote Mick on the key, and have it like Mick Key or something. I don't know. I was just trying to explain it to someone. I was just looking at me like, "What are you doing?" So
I think that's hilarious. Yeah, no, I think that's great stuff. Mick Key. Yeah. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, there are some things where, as a director, I think one of your biggest roles, maybe the biggest, is to make decisions. And maybe it doesn't matter so much what the decisions are, you just have to make them. And I definitely felt that being on set, because like you've got the whole crew and the whole cast looking at me, just asking, what are we doing next? And we have to do something. And maybe it doesn't even matter what it is. And so if I'm like, I want to get a abstract, really aesthetic close-up of the bow on Naomi's hair, because it's a Wendy Darling reference. They don't care. They just need to know what they're doing so they can get on and do it. So it's like, I'll do whatever I think is the most cool and creative. And then everyone else will just be grateful for the instructions because we have to do something. Yeah.
I'll do, sometimes you sort of ask people, do you have anything are you okay with it or whatever? But they just want to just be told what to do really, don't they? And it's something that you said at your anniversary as well. Kind of like the award that was given along with Kai and Shan as well.
Yeah.
It was like, I appreciated that being a leader for the first time. It's something that is kind of, I know you just have to, it's a challenge as well because as you say, you might have someone that's like acted in loads of things. They've got loads of credits, but they're looking at you. And yeah, I appreciate that you saw that as a challenge. And
yeah.
Yeah, so
that was you won our directorial debut award, and it was very well deserved because I think some people have like done a lot of directing related stuff, and then they technically haven't directed a film before, so technically it is their debut. Whereas for you, it was truly your directorial debut because it was your first time coming into this whole thing and doing it, and you actually went and did it from scratch. And so I felt I wanted to recognize that. It's all about leadership. And people being able to look to you and to feel a sense of confidence that like you have a vision and that you're actually leading them somewhere, not just like wandering around aimlessly. So sometimes it doesn't even matter how like obscure that vision is, as long as you have one. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, you just have to like have the confidence in your own idea. And yeah, I just found it really, for the first time, seeing people speak the dialogue that you're right. It's a crazy feeling, and you're probably used to it by now. But obviously, that first time is just a good feeling.
I was so happy to see it all come together. I could not believe my eyes.
Is there anything that you have planned for the future?
Indeed. I've got some things. I don't know if I can even talk about them yet because they're sort of secret, but yeah, I haven't stopped writing and I haven't stopped coming up with ideas. And I have a project that I'm working towards that I'd like to shoot and complete in 2027. And I am confident that I'll be able to do that. So watch this space. And then at the end of 2027, to be transparent with you, I'm going to turn 30. And so I think I will have then spent my entire 20s from literally like when I was 19. Like I started directing my first proper film, The Perfect Story, like weeks before my 20th birthday. And so throughout my teens, I did quite a bit of filmmaking. And then from like, I was literally probably like on set shooting The Perfect Story pretty much on my 20th birthday, almost around that week. And so I turned 20. I spent my entire 20s making short films. And now I've got this new project coming for 2027. And then I'll turn 30. And then for my 30s, I would like to make features. So that is, I'm just sharing that with you now. That's my next goal.
Yeah, you definitely have
for
to
the future.
Look up, and obviously you've probably had that time to think about what stories probably suit a feature rather than a short. Like there's probably, so yeah, I don't want to ask too many questions, and I'll be surprised because I was surprised by Darling as well. It came about when I was doing the course, I think, or just after. So yeah, to be there from the start is really exciting, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, I want to say as well, I'm super excited to see your work going forward because I feel like I'm grateful I've been able to share a lot of my journey with you so far. And it's very exciting. Like you said earlier, the feeling of hearing somebody else say the lines that you wrote. It's just as fulfilling for me to see you doing stuff that we talked about, like where you had ideas and things that you wanted to go and do, and you actually executed and actually made the film. I'm like, this is awesome. Like I get to see the stuff that we talked about actually happening in real life. And so I'm super excited to see what you'll do next as well.
Hey Scarlett, just thought I'd leave a quick message. I'm feeling really ready for tomorrow, and I can't wait to see you and the rest of the team at Nationals doing our routine on stage.
Really appreciate it. Slightly to go to section here is where we're has some folded forwards. This does denote a physical activity, including cheerleading, for the next 6 to 12 months. You're a cheerleader?
I used to be a part of the Ravens, but they dropped me.
Is that Neve?
The judges.
Oh, right, well, you don't need to book in them.
Well aware of that, though.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed our chat. And remember, I'm just going to end with a meaningful statement. I want to remind everybody about the importance of stories, and that fictional stories don't have to just be trash entertainment that are kind of meaningless and have no purpose. You can actually use storytelling to make an impact in the real world and in our real lives if you do it in a mindful way, like Ethan is doing. So shout out to you guys for watching this, and shout out to you, Ethan, especially. And thank you for having me on. This was awesome.